Mm-hmm.
All right, we're on
Repeat
once again on a Wednesday
220.
evening.
I don't know what to hit you early.
We got
Yeah, Stephanie.
mute your mic there first, you. We
Yeah,
we're
second. What the hell is going
we'll
on?
kick off.
You
We'll
said the
kick
page
off
is
great.
hold on.
Uh, okay.
You're live, G, you're live.
Yeah, you had Greg on there for a minute. We're going
Listen,
on.
Mr.
You knock
Good.
off. You knock off,
Yeah,
Gregory.
yeah, but you're live, you're live. You're live. You hear me?
I hear you, but Gregory got knocked off
Yeah,
again.
Greg will come back.
All right,
Yeah, he
all
will
right.
come
Well,
back.
we on again. Well, there are three of us from Belize tonight, no? And of course, the news in Belize is hot. You guys have seen that one of George's heroes has been banned from the United States of America. He can't go again. He's been named, if you will. You know, like in a World Cup War movies when you post out a tongue, you're out of tongue and you're not able to return. Gregory, welcome back.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, Judge, we're going on, man. What you think about John Saldiva?
Well, G Mike, you know that I am a stickler for principles and the law. Um, just like how I felt initially that Shine Borough should not have been allowed to participate in electoral politics on principles and on the basis of the law, because the law is not just the word of the law, but it's the spirit of the law. And in the case of Shine Barrow, and we're not discussing, but in the case of Shine, I believe that the principle of the law in Belize is that if you're not of upstanding character, then you should not run. And it's the same way that I felt about John Saldiva. I felt that from day one, John should not been allowed to proceed to where he proceeded to. At one point, he ran for the leadership of the United Democratic Party. I don't think that it should have gone that way. I have spent 26 years as a public servant in Belize, and I will tell you that there's a legal clause in the rules that basically says that your character should not be called into question. And if John was working with the government of Belize in the capacity of a public officer, from the time the issue of Lev Derman came up, he would have been before the Public Service Commission to answer, and there would have been more than likely a move to remove him from the public service. But obviously, the level of let me say the level of scrutiny and the level of integrity that you need to demonstrate as a public officer, you don't need to demonstrate as a politician. No, so I have no mercy on him. I am hoping that the current prime minister coordinates with the U.S. authorities to basically say, give us what you have, and proceed with that. You guys will recall that Mr. Barrow, the former prime minister, basically said when the Lev Derman issue first came up that if there's a whiff of corruption, the dull machete shall fall.
Hmm.
And so I am saying to the succeeding prime minister that this is not about PUP or UDP, this is about the government of Belize. And so when they say that person X has been denied the privilege of visiting the United States, it's not just Dan Saldiva, it's an ex-official of the government of Belize. And so there are principles involved and there are practices involved. And I think that he should face the full consequences of what has transpired.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to George, and of course we're going to Leonard. I just want to say I don't know that I agree with you on the Shine Barrow thing because Shine paid his dues. He paid his debt. He did not commit any crime in Belize.
We're going in and out. Oh, I don't know if it's just my side.
I think it's just
I can,
yours.
I can, I can hear clearly.
Yeah, George, you hearing? George has his mic muted, but we're listen. So I'm not. I don't totally agree with George on the Shine Barrow side of things. and I find him to be intelligent and well spoken. So I would give him a little more leniency than George would. And John Saldiva, I think John Saldiva should have been removed from, he won that election in Belmopan and he allowed his henchman to shoot off a gun in public. And then when the police went to talk to the man, he ordered the police to step down. At that point, he was not even a minister, because he was just, the results had just come out, so cabinet had not been formed. So I don't think that he should have been in. He's proven himself. Then you have the whole headless man matter, which I don't understand how far we go before we say enough. I think it's way too far. Gregory or Leonard?
I'll let
go ahead,
Leonard go ahead. I'll let Leonard go ahead first.
Leonard,
Leonard,
are you sure? You sure you want to do that?
I'm had to jump. I'm had to jump on this one because yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
I have the wherewithal to be able to provide some additional information to the panel and the rest of the listeners or viewers, no? I personally, let me go straight to the point, because I think I'm going to take too long to clarify what I need to clarify, but I'll go straight and hope that everybody is along with me. The Saldiva matter did not have to turn out the way it ended up as we're now discussing it. When Mr. Barrow initially had to go take his surgery for his, when he had his medical problem, he intimated that he would step down and allow whoever the leader of the UDP was second to him at that time to be able to take over the leadership of UDP as a party and with its majority, and then be able to become a prime minister in their own rights for a period of time before the election had to be called. I don't know who all recall that particular series of events.
Yeah. I think we are.
I'm going with that because it's going to connect to other issues.
Right.
Secondly, I spoke with Mr. Patrick Faber, I think it was 4 years ago. At that time, I asked him a specific question. I was working with him in the 10th of September celebration group. I was next to him and I leaned over and I asked him a question. Are you ready to assume the prime ministership role? He looked at me and he said, of course I am. I did not complete my statement to him because I had to depart quickly to go and salute the Governor General, who was at the time standing upstairs of what is parcel post for the post office. And by the time I ran back down, the procession had moved on and I lost track of him and I was involved with other activities. But the reason why I posed that question to him then was to inform him that if the prime minister at that time had seriously contemplated allowing him to be the next person who would take over the prime minister's position as the leader of the party, who at that time Mr. Faber was the deputy leader because he had run before against Mr. Gaspar Vega and lost. But then subsequently Mr. Vega got into trouble and then Mr. Faber was able to get that position. Had he been indicated as the next person to become the prime minister, he would have been allowed to go into the prime minister's portfolio and his office and learn a little bit about the economics and the financial aspects of how the country is run. And that was the indication to me that, yes, he may have been positioned to assume that posture, but was not granted the privilege to be able to back up so that he could take over that position if and when Mr. Barrow would have left, as he had previously indicated. The fact is that because Mr. Barrow did not demit at the time when he said he was going to demit, and he held on a little longer, it ended up happening that the convention for leadership came about, and Mr. Saldiva decided to challenge Mr. Faber, and eventually end up winning that convention. And then Mr. Faber decided that he didn't want to work under Mr. Saldivar, so he wanted to tender his resignation. Now, that was an untenable situation for the UDP, because that would mean then that they would lose a seat, they would have to have a by-election, and a whole lot of other political things, ramifications that would stem from that. My advice was that he should hold the seat, keep the majority, and wait till Mr. Barrow demit. But because he did not demit on time, like I said earlier, and he waited until the convention yielded a result that was not foreseen by other people. Of course, I could say that I had foreseen it because I had predicted it. The bottom line was that in a few days' time, the Dermot issue was already bubbling, and the PUP started having a field day with Mr. Saldivar. And as a result, Mr. Barrow put his finger on the scale and decided to not allow Mr. Saldivar to continue being the leader of the party, and for them to go ahead and have another convention, which Mr. Faber did one eventually. Mr. Saldivar was leader for just a few days. And the problem came out of that had Mr. Barrow not stayed in long enough, he wouldn't have had to put his finger on the scale, because Mr. Saldivar would not have been willing to challenge Mr. Faber under the previous circumstance where Mr. Barrow would have demitted office, and the Deputy Prime Minister then, Mr. Faber, would have then become leader of the party. At that time, he would not have been challenged by Mr. Saldivar for party leadership, because he would have then been the Prime Minister.
Permit me though, because
so for a series of events that took place, some of it under the counter. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry. There are other parts that I need to connect before we get to where we are now.
You're coming to the topic at hand, right? You're coming to the topic at hand, because and yes, the history of it is interesting, but I think you're stating things that we know, and you're not really giving us an opinion on the matter that we're discussing, which is Jan Saldivar being banned from going to the US.
Context.
Yeah, but we need to get faster. We need to get there faster.
There was no need for the PUP. There was no need for the UDP to blame the PUP because the PUP started having a field day with Mr. With the Les Dermer issue. Because truly speaking, over the history of Belize, we have had people giving money and getting money from shady characters as well as good outstanding characters. The bottom line is that he was being accused of something that nobody had any proof of that he actually had done, because to take money for your political campaign or for your constituents or even for yourself, as most of them do, is not a crime in Belize. It should be a crime, but it's not really a crime that is being dealt with effectively. There are laws against it, by the way. When I say it's not a crime, I mean it's not being treated as a crime.
Let me ask you a straight-up question before we go on.
What happened is that Mr. Barrow lied to the cabinet, and Mr. Barrow put Mr. Barrow put Mr. John Saldivar under the bus for lying to cabinet, when both of them had lied to cabinet. Okay, one lied to cabinet because he said he did not receive any funds, and the funds that he was talking about, like in other words, he did not receive any illegal funds. Basically, that was what Mr. Saldivar was intimating when he said he did not receive any funds. He was intimating about he did not perform any illegal or shady activity as per how it's been accepted nowadays. People can give you money, or you accept money for your campaign from all different sources. He didn't go and tell Les Dermer to go and commit a crime in the US, bring his money to the Belize and give him part of it.
No.
So he cannot be faulted for that.
But that's
had I been his campaign manager or somebody who was advising him, out of debunk the PUP theory and get the man clear.
You may have to do it quicker, may get no
but that was
But let
But
me
that
hold
was
on.
part of the overall bigger picture where the leadership of the UDP as a party was supposed to have ended up the way it now ended up.
Let me ask you one question
There
before
were
we
bigger
go on.
agendas afoot.
Listen,
And
are
these
you
bit players and bit pieces were just the pieces that were being played on the chess game to achieve the objective.
are you
Yes, sir.
suggesting that John Saliva has no case to answer that
We're going in
that
and out. I'm not hearing.
obviously but are you suggesting that John Saliva has no case to answer, that in fact you don't think he's guilty of anything and the actions by the US government was unfair? All right, he gone.
Well,
Go ahead.
let me respond. I believe, I mean, we never know exactly because the US have never presented an actual case against Mr. Saliva. They just took actions against him. So that is probably something that should trouble everyone. You know, everybody, even under the Americans' jurisprudence, you require, it's required that that charge and that, I'm not saying a charge in typical charge, but someone need to tell you exactly what you did and when you did it and present that evidence to further act. But I guess in just denying you access to the United States, which is a privilege, they just feel on their own to just go ahead and make those kind of moves. I think that should be troubling to every Belizean, and just how drastic and how definite they make these moves without presenting any evidence, and anybody, I believe, could be caught up in that. I also think that John Saliva was accused of many things. Some of it was that he brought into the country a Belize. I don't think it was a crime in the U.S., but he brought into the country a Belize funds that was in excess of the amount that's allowed by sharing it up amongst some of his colleagues on the plane. I don't know how illegal that is in terms of the actual law, but it definitely kind of affect the spirit of the law when you break it up and bring that type of money in. And you are right that he did not ask Mr. Devlin to Lev Devlin to commit any crime. He was just getting funds to do what politicians in Belize and what our laws allows them to normally do, and that is to go out and raise funds and by whatever means. We know a lot of this happens in all type of circumstances, whether it's local through local banks and stuff that's going on, and we know that these funds, and that's one of the reasons I think we need to kind of have some specific guidelines as to political campaign financing and the registration of political parties. Those are necessary things. In terms of,
oh, sorry,
go
sir,
ahead.
Before we move on to the next point, before we leave this, can I be given an opportunity at least for 10 seconds? I promise I won't take more than 10 seconds, just to connect something else.
Please.
The other issue that he was blamed with or tarred with was the pastor's head being cut off by that criminal organization headed by that next gentleman. Saliva did not create that situation. He did not participate in it, and he did not facilitate anything that had to do with it. The mere factor of him being associated with and or have anything to do with that gentleman was a tarring process, you know. He did not. So that again, he suffered again from lack of good guidance and good advocacy and clarification of those issues.
10 seconds up. 10 seconds up. Let me ask you something. If John Saliva ran in your constituency today, would you vote for him?
Me, Leonard? Yes, sir, I would, because of what I know.
All right, I see what you're saying. That's interesting. Did you hear that, George? Are you on? No, George, take care of something.
Yeah.
But Greg, but seriously, you don't think that the allegations by itself, without even the proof positive that we're talking about, should be enough to say, well, for us to say to this gentleman, well, you know, really, it just is not looking good on any of us.
No, I agree it doesn't look good. I agree it doesn't look good. But I do believe in some type of justice, and I believe that at some point, if you're going to accuse someone of something, you need to have the evidence. As Leonard said, he had nothing in evidence to do with the murder and the cutting off the head of the preacher. He had issues in terms of bringing funds into the country and lying to the cabinet. And I think he suffered the just penalty for that. He got barred from cabinet. He got removed as the leader of the UDP, and those were resolved. That we moved on. That we moved on to this situation now with the United States bringing these penalty of visa. I think those are only
Yes.
are items that you cannot just do
George.
arbitrarily against people of any political party,
I hear-
any Belizean.
I hear your point, Greg. I hear your point. Not in agreement, but go ahead, Judge.
Yeah. I know you guys did in literature at some point A Tale of Two Cities, and this is not exactly an equivalent of A Tale of Two Cities. This is a situation of A Tale of Two Truths, and I'm saying that because from the conversation, it seems to me that John is being given a pass because, quote unquote, things were not illegal that he did. But I disagree with you. They are potentially illegal. There's written in law, in the laws of Belize, specifically in relation to corruption in public office, a clause that says, thy reputation shall not be called into question. And I am saying to you that the issue of Lev Derman was not just one singular issue. There has been a culture of interaction between the parties, and at some point the red flag went up, and whether it came to the fore as a result of the PUP's, the opposition basically saying that there's something amiss, I believe that there has to be mechanisms in place that says that if you are involved as an elected member of cabinet or otherwise as a part of the government system with questionable characters and with questionable activities, then you are treading on potentially illegal grounds. But you will be able to do so if there's no mechanism to investigate you. As the Minister of Police, the police cannot investigate Mr. Saldivar.
Well, should he have lost those type of portfolio? Yes.
No. I think that there's the politics of governance that took place there, but I am saying that in relation to the people's business, Mr. Saldivar should have been investigated by the police so that there's no speculation. We should have investigated him from day one because we do not know.
But Mr. Mivit, what was there to investigate? That he took the funds. He admitted to cabinet on the second round that he did get funds.
Yes.
He did nothing illegal to getting those funds, but he did he may have done something that is questionable in transferring those cash to Belize by flying it in.
Can I bring something else to the attention of the panel right now?
Let me address Gregory's. I was talking. Let me address Gregory's concern that you are asking what is there to investigate. If Mr. Saldivar said that Mr. Derman gave me $50,000, that doesn't mean that Mr. Derman gave him $50,000. It could have meant that Mr. Derman gave him $50 million. So we cannot.
But how are you going to investigate that? How are you going to investigate that?
How? It's very easy.
Okay.
We could get the police to basically see what transactions have happened. We could coordinate with the FBI. We could coordinate with the U.S. authorities to see if in the first instance, Mr. Saldivar is being truthful. That's the first thing.
Those may have been desirable, but not realistic as far as Belize asking for information from the U.S.
This is not a regular, Armand. This is not a regular transaction.
I'm not saying it's
is not-
regular. I said
it
it
is
was
not-
cash. So
it is
so
not-
tracing it the way you're saying is going to be proven difficult, and it takes resources.
Well, it could be difficult, but not impossible. And I am
Well-
saying to you that there's something called plea bargaining. You know that. I know that. What if the United States was to say, just in theory, to Mr. Durman, you know what? Instead of you want to get 50 years incarceration, if you cooperate with us and tell us exactly what transpired between you and this Belizean official,
They
then we
didn't
could
care about
talk.
him. They didn't care. He was small fries. He was they
But you
were
don't
he was
know
less than
that.
$1 million. He was less than $1
You
million.
don't-
They were
Yeah, you
trying
don't know
to
that.
prosecute him for a couple $100 million.
Can I be allowed to
Listen,
interject?
right
Because
there again.
what I'm trying to interject is
Alright.
salient to where we are at right now and where
Mr.
we're
Go ahead,
going
Chairman.
mister.
still.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, would you allow me to complete what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I think you're entitled to, sir.
You gave me the floor, and I will close
Yes,
off
sir.
right here. I am saying to you that the yardstick by which we are measuring Mr. Saldivar is one, by his words, which needs to be verified. The second thing that we are measuring Mr. Saldivar by is whether or not it is illegal. Something might be improper, it might be irregular, but not necessarily illegal. And I am saying to
All right.
you, if there's a clause that says your reputation can be called into question, then I'm saying that it doesn't need to be illegal. I am saying to you that it is not normal for ministers to travel outside of the country and bring in money with them for their own campaign. So this is a very serious matter. And the point that I am making is that these guys can do that because, one, there is a need for electoral reform, which nobody wants to touch. And two, there's the issue of we have to verify and we have to put in place structures to make sure that a Lev Durman Saldivar event does not happen going forward.
Well, that has been happening all the way in the past and will continue to happen, as far as I can perceive, all the way into the future. I don't know for how many more decades.
No.
Yeah.
But that's not my point. I was trying to go to a point that is relevant to the overall discussion that needs to be brought in, and that is that we all recall that Mr. Saldivar was Minister of Police as well as Minister of Defense for Belize at the same time, right?
Mhm.
And we all can recall that we had a forward base that was being built
Mhm.
for Belize by Guatemalans and financed by the U.S. government.
Mhm.
Do we recall that as well?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do we recall who was the person that put foot on that matter and who actually stopped it from going on, because we declared ourselves nationalists and we wanted to make sure that that didn't happen, that the Guatemalans would have the opportunity to build our stuff for us and put
Well-
bugs and all kind of other stuff that they
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
basically monitor, or
Yeah.
instead of we monitoring them,
Yeah.
they're monitoring us
Exactly.
with our own equipment.
Exactly.
And our,
Yeah.
so that was a very important issue that needs to be kept
I
in context
agree.
of this discussion.
I
because
agree.
the U.S. does not do nothing willy-nilly or just gratuitously. Whenever the U.S.
Yeah.
gets involved with anything, whether it's foreign
Purposeful,
affairs,
yeah.
local affairs, or whatever it is, so long as
Yeah.
the government, any arm of the government is involved,
Yeah.
there's always
Yeah.
more than meets the eye. And they don't
Of
have to
course.
give account to nobody as regards to their specific rationale or reasons. They just do what they need to do when the time comes. That's just the way it works.
Yes.
And we puny Belize have no means.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Leonard, that you brought up about the base. I kind of forgot that. I remember the Prime Minister had gone in the air and said, well, if you guys feel that way, we will build our own base. We didn't get quite the base we had hoped for because it became a wooden structure, I believe, and not the concrete structure that the Guatemalan contractor was going to build for the U.S. But those type of things affect us all, and I think that we need to kind of make sure that the United States, they could act however they want, but that it somehow doesn't involve all of the for the political party based on politics, because they're acting in their own interests. But we don't know, like you said, exactly why they did what they did, but we have these little Indians falling that says, hey, it could be because of the forward base that they had this up there, forever wanting to get back at him.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how long we end up on this topic, but I just wanted to make sure that my observations, granted we should stay on topic, my observations are that the rule of law should take precedence. Any country could act unilaterally. Belize should act in its own interest, and the United States would act in its own interest in saying that, Mr. John Birchman Saldivar, you are no more an entity that we would allow into our country. That is their prerogative. Where our interest lies is to make sure that those people who aspire for the seat of political governance are honorable and upstanding citizens. And I am saying that here is a scenario where a foreign government has said that we find this character not to be one of integrity. And so we are washing our hands off of him in as far as entering into the United States is concerned. I am saying that it is Belize's prerogative to decide in the context of the chorus of good governance to let this not die. And I am recommending, and I am hoping that other people would, that we encourage the Prime Minister to say, you know what, at some point, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And this first step might be to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law somebody that may have stepped outside of embedded legal language and embedded legal consequences. I think that he should be prosecuted if indeed the evidence is there and if indeed the United States government is willing to provide us.
That will never happen.
That has formed the basis of their decision.
That will never happen about the providing us.
They just throw arrows.
Doesn't work like that.
Arrows. They just throw arrows. I
Well,
agree.
are you saying that the government of Belize should not in any way follow up on this?
I'm saying, sir, that I'm saying that even members of Congress who are charged with the responsibility to get information out of those major institutions in the United States are always unable to get the information when push comes to shove. They go into classifications and into all different kind of mechanisms to avoid having to be accountable and provide the information. I'm saying to you, Belize does not fit into the consideration of any member of Congress or powerful people.
Let me get a word in. Let me get a word in, please, because I heard the presentations by Gregory and Leonard agreeing with each other, which is all right, as if to suggest that the man there's no evidence, so you can't really do nothing. I think what we have to read the report from the U.S. carefully, because they're saying that he interfered with immigration procedures. In other words, he allowed people to get passports and to get well, not visas, but documents. But that no matter. No matter why we talk about this particular situation right here, and the many allegations against him, including the one with the man losing his head, where you could say, "Oh, they not got nothing, pana," but there's circumstantial evidence.
He has no part in that. How can you tar a man for something that he had no part in?
You can't say that any more than we can. But the fact is that the allegation was made, and it stinks to high heaven.
Allegations are allegations. That's why you have court.
Yeah, but no. We can take George's comments here and look at it, because it just the fact that his reputation came into question is enough. And it has come into question,
but
and rules, too many times. That's not one thing, man.
But the rules for the Department of Public Service, the Public Service Commission, and the authority that is vested in them.
You're saying politicians
are not the same as with politicians.
Right, they're above the law, aren't they?
They are not supposed to be, but they are allowed to practice. So
let's stop it now. Then let's stop it now. How about that?
Somewhere it has to stop, or it should stop.
Okay,
I don't have an argument with you there.
But then how can we now look at I can't see anybody looking at John Saldivar at this point and saying, yeah, I would vote for him still. I mean, that's not
It
Trump
has
kind
to
of
be-
thing. That like you'd
No,
still
no,
vote
no.
for Trump, wouldn't you?
No. Two different things you're talking
No,
about.
no,
Two different
no,
things.
no.
That
One is
same
an
thing.
allegation and
No.
one is an actual
It's
involvement.
all
and practice.
allegation with Trump.
No,
you
no,
don't
you
got
can't
no-
compare
you
those
don't
two
got
things.
nothing about Trump.
You're overdoing it now, Mr. Chairman. You're
I
really
don't
over
think
the
I don't think they're the same.
It's
issues.
the
I
same.
think-
You're totally over the other side of the barrel now.
No,
It is the
no.
same
Yeah,
in principle, Mr. Chairman.
No,
That's
It
what
is
I'm
the same
saying.
in principle.
The same in
It is the
principle.
same in
Indeed.
principle.
I
No.
can't
Trump-
see.
What is following Mr. Trump are allegations until
No.
and unless the evidence is provided. And I am saying what is following
But
Mr.
evidence
Saldivar
have been
at this
provided
point-
in that, but we're getting too broad.
What is following Mr. Saldivar at this
Oh,
point
man.
are
This is a good one.
allegations, and unless the government, I believe, basically say, let us see what the evidence is. Let us see what the evidence lies. It will continue to be.
Let me ask you a question.
He
Let me
never
ask
do
you a
not that the
question.
United States.
Mr.
Well, he never
Maivik.
do not believes whatever he did is the United States business. That is not acceptable.
What came out of the Senate investigation?
Mr. Maivik, let me ask you a question. Do you think the government of Belize should now prosecute Mr. Saldivar for this, whatever those actions were? Is that what you're
My view
kind of
is
saying to
that-
me?
My view is that it is a process. We don't know if what he did is prosecutable, but we will not.
But no,
know
I'm just asking you, do you
until
think that they should investigate and
they should
prosecute if that?
investigate him to the fullest extent of the law. You know why?
Mhm.
Because I have retired now 6 years from the government service of Belize. And do you know if they find that I have committed anything improper, they can bring me to tasks on the basis
6 years
of
after?
evidence.
But
6 years
politicians
after.
don't bring politicians to court.
I am saying
personal
there's
issues.
nothing in the constitution that says the politicians
Isn't there
are
a time?
of higher
Isn't there a
order.
time
There's
limit?
nothing.
Isn't there a time limit of probably
There's nothing in the
3 years or
Constitution.
5
All
years?
of those are technical legal issues,
Show me
Mr. Morrison,
in
and
the
you're correct.
Constitution where the politicians have a super citizen status. You show that to me in the Constitution. I think what is lacking is political
Sir,
will.
sir,
to
on
do
that
what
point,
is
on that point,
necessary.
before you jump it, on that point, Mr. Mavitt, before you jump it, do you know that a politician can commit a crime while going to his House of Assembly meeting, and no police officer can even stop them or do anything to them? They're immune. They have what you call immunity from prosecution or from hindrance.
Yeah.
To those, there are things that none of we police would have grabbed any away and lock we down or do whatever they have to, beat we down and then charge you for resisting them beating us up. But they can't do that to the minister.
Well,
There are different rules.
My question,
As much as we don't like it.
my question to you is, there might be a time element there, because I can see where, if a politician is on his way to the House of Representatives and he hits somebody, knocked down somebody, and it happened before.
Which has happened. Okay.
It happened before. There was a minister who killed somebody on the road to Belmopan.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened before, and he was allowed to proceed to the House. So I am saying to you, well, I can understand that, but that doesn't mean that he cannot be prosecuted in retrospect.
I'm
We
not
don't
disagreeing
want
with
to
you on that
interrupt his
either. They're
mission
just
to the
technical
House.
issues, right? We're just talking about technical
Well, it's
issues.
not only technical issues. I would want you to provide us with the law or with the policy that allows a politician to commit a crime and not be prosecuted.
Neither did I
understanding
imply
is
that
that-
they are committing a crime and not being prosecuted. I didn't go that far.
No,
Remember
no,
where
I
I
don't think
so.
stopped?
Well,
I
but
stopped at the point where to create a hindrance for his attendance of those meetings. Those meetings are what you call of national importance, and they are above the normal course of events.
Yeah.
And therefore, those people are allowed that frivolous, because to me, it's a frivolous issue anyhow. I don't care who you are. You could be the governor, you could be the whoever, and you
Well-
commit a crime, your ass should be taken up to task. Whether you win or lose the case is another issue.
well, the
But
only,
as a minimum, you should be prosecuted, unlike the no prosecution in the case of the last thing that you just wrote a poem on, Mr. Maivit,
the
not prosecuted. Right?
oh, null pros. No. That's a
Yeah.
technical default.
We are all talking about
System.
technical issues right now.
But I am saying to you, Mr. Brackett, I am
Yes,
making the
sir.
point. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there's no constitutional provisions for the politicians not to be set upon if they broke the law. There might be some temporary reprieve, as you are suggesting, that the man is on his way, blah, blah, blah. I understand that while they're in the House, and they're debating among themselves.
Look under the section of the
Even if they
Constitution
say
that
something
speaks
libelous,
to
you cannot
ministers.
take them to court while in the process of debate and discussion. But outside of that, I am of the feeling that if you're not known somebody, yes, you could attend meetings, but that doesn't mean that you cannot be taken to task legally.
I'm in agreement with that with you.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
we go.
On that point, I do not
think we all
disagree with
agree.
you.
I think we all agree with that.
So nobody's above the law.
I think, George, your point is taken that what
Back to
we have a foreign.
Mr.
Hold on,
Chairman.
hold on,
Back to something that Mr. Marvin has said.
Hold on. I don't interrupt you like that. Hold on.
Sir,
Give me a
sorry.
chance, please. You're forgiven. But anyway, I think we should try to find out from the U.S. We have a foreign affairs department. We have people. We have ambassadors over there. We have diplomats. We should find out exactly what they have, because I believe they have enough. I don't believe that America is going to do that without. I don't think so. Just arbitrarily say this man. I don't. And I hear what you're saying, Gregory, that you think it would be of concern to all of us if they were able to do that. And America has been high-handed, but in situations like these, I don't see, and I do not buy that they would be going after him behind any grudge for what he did with that station that he put his foot down on. I really don't see that. Listen, America, I'm a suspect in a lot of areas. They're bullies. They do a lot of things they're not for do, but there are some things that there's an infrastructure in place that would catch that before it got through. I really believe so. So I think what we should be trying to do, though, as opposed to defend him and making excuses for him, is to try to find out what are the real allegations here that they have, and what the evidence they have against him.
That's what I said. That's my point, is that he may, I don't know if they presented the evidence to him. He probably know what he did, but the main things that we know that he did was the Lev Derman funding. I was not aware of anything about immigration, and if that is part of the reasoning that they're following through with what they did, then that should be made known. What did he do exactly in terms of immigration? We are not aware of where he may have assisted anyone in getting American access to the United
passports
States.
and things,
yeah.
And we know,
and
this is
Mr.
where
Chairman? Oh, sorry. I will jump into you against.
You want 10 more seconds?
I didn't want a point to go unanswered, or unattended.
What?
There's a point that I want to bring up again, and that is that. Oh, thank you very much, sir. And that is that I got locked in my tongue.
That's how I feel, because I lost my train of thought too. So they say I should never interrupt an old man when he talk. He will forget what he was saying.
Yeah.
So the same applies with the two of us. But
so what really had happened is that the Senate investigation that we did here in Belize yielded a lot of people being found or being caught up in strange situations, much worse than what is being alleged against Mr. Jan Saliva right now in terms of immigration, criminal conduct, or activities. We have ministers who are responsible for those departments, who acknowledge having committed those crimes, and who was
let me ask you a question.
Disbanded, and we don't have the U.S. We don't have the U.S. coming down on them.
But I
or
don't
any
think
other body that was involved in that investigation. The kind of way they're coming down on Mr. Saliva.
Leonard, I don't think the immigration issue that they're talking about is relating to Belize. I think it's more relating to access to the United States. I don't think
it's about paperwork. It's about documents.
Why would they be concerned about Belize? Belize have always had very lax immigration, and everybody.
Saliva has no power to control or to influence the immigration to the United States of anyone.
Okay.
Neither you nor I or anybody else.
No. But I'm talking maybe
it's a peculiar process.
Maybe he had allowed some people to get visas for entry into the United States. Maybe he had signed some documents or something to allow
All of that would be
access- allow
frivolous.
them
All of that I
access.
would consider to be frivolous if that was to be the case.
Gregory,
You know, it just
did
wouldn't
you
come up in
Greg,
in
did
the
you
case of-
read did you read the release from the U.S. State Department?
I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a part of it.
This kind of short. Let's look at it. The
Okay.
United States has designated former Belizean Minister John Birchman Saldiva for his involvement in significant corruption.
Mhm.
Specifically, Saldiva accepted bribes for the improper acquisition of Belizean immigration documents
Okay.
and interfered in public processes for his personal benefits during his tenure as a government official. Section 7031C provides that officials of foreign governments and their immediate family members about whom the Secretary of State has credible information or direct or indirect involvement in significant corruption or a gross violation of human rights or ineligible
Ineligible.
to enter into the United States. That's only the first paragraph. So that what they're saying there
Yes.
seems to me is that he was involved in
Getting facilitating visas.
facilitating visas for
And
people.
you and I will never
bribe,
get
for
the
bribe.
evidence to substantiate those allegations.
So, well, listen, if that everything you want to prove happen, you know.
No, I'm just saying that, you know, the way the system works
there's
is
circumstantial
that they are not beholden
evidence.
to anyone to give you any information.
All right.
You
true.
go and apply for a visa and they don't have no reason or rationale to dispense
Yeah,
or,
but
or tell you why they reject your visa. That's just the way the process works.
Mr. Brackett,
No, but
person to state relationships are different from state to state relationship. The
understand that
government
clearly,
of
sir.
The
I'm
government
very
of
cognizant of
Belize
that.
making a request is not the same as George Mivett showing up for a visa. It's orders of magnitudes different.
That is just that came out of the question that Mr. Morrison just were intimating, you know,
Yeah.
until the chairman read this stuff, and then it became clear that he
Yeah.
was that what I was saying was
Was
correct
US.
and what Mr. Morrison was saying was not
No,
correct.
I was not
But
saying
Mr.
that. I was saying
Brackett-
I did not know where it was. But anyway,
Mr. Brackett, you continue to
Yes, sir.
say and you continue to insinuate that it doesn't matter because you can't get nothing out of the US. And I'm saying,
No, wait, don't go that far. Wait, man.
How do you know that?
Pardon me. My good gentleman, Mr. Mavit, pardon me, sir. I didn't go that far.
I am identifying with what, but you continue to say, no, you know what happened? When you can't see the US for nothing. And I identify with what Mr. Mike, what the chairman is saying. This is not arbitrary. The US
Will it be surprising if I tell you I agree with almost everything you have been saying tonight,
yeah, but
despite
except-
my advocacy to the contrary?
No, but except the fact that that I am saying, and I think the chairman to some extent is lending credence to what I am saying, that we should pursue the US government to facilitate us with the info because it might also have criminal implications in Belize.
yeah, I understand if they
Remember-
actually accuse him of accepting personal bribe for
Don't
personal
expect me
reasons.
to argue against that point again.
Remember also that the US has a policy that basically says that they are against human trafficking. And if you have Belizean officials kind of facilitating foreigners with documentation that could get them into the United States, then of course the United States has a legitimate gripe. But also, if this becomes irregular to them, it might be irregular to us also. And I am saying what is unfortunate this time is that Mr. Saldiva's party is not now in government. So
Okay, but we now have a government that is facilitating. We now have a government that is facilitating 60 to 100,000 people from Central America who wants to use Belize as a springboard to get to the United States and get Belizean documentation. How does that connect?
That's a
No
different
murky
issue,
water.
though.
You can't use one
No, it's
issue
not-
to
it's not
justify
murky
the
water.
other.
If they are so concerned about the point that Mr. Mavit just raised,
But then
how
you
does what I
can't say
said
that, man.
connect?
You can't say that. Listen, listen.
It's
First
one and
of
the
all,
same issue.
first of
No,
all, won't you
sir.
let
You
somebody
cannot
say
be
no?
facilitating people going to the United States without the
And
United States government having some say in determining whether or not those people
Mr.
are
Brackett,
supposed to be allowed.
listen
Mr.
to me.
Brackett,
Hold up. What we have to realize, we have to ask if whether these that road, because then maybe what they have on them might also come out, and the US might say, you know what? Well, we got all of this we want to need for we might want to know about also. So
well,
they government officials are not tell upon one another and not seek to persecute one another. So we know that for a fact.
Mm.
well, I just want to give one instance where um, a citizen from the Middle East, I believe, that had terrorist leanings, basically came to Belize, and in 24 hours, basically got a Belizean passport and was on his way to the United States.
Mhm.
And this is what the United States is basically saying to all Belizean officials.
You're affirming what I just stated just now. Thank you.
You guys need to be circumspect in
Mhm.
how you treat with anointing people with passports and permanent residence and citizenship. You may not
And some of them have gotten diplomatic passport.
You may not, well, even that, but I am saying that the it's acceptable to us for our people to continue with skullduggery, but the United States government is basically saying, do what you need to do, little Belize, but when it comes to issues that would impact our national security, it's not going to happen. And this
So
is what has happened.
But
with,
this is where
with
I
the
believe
government.
when we go to the US to ask for that kind of evidence, we have something to also quid pro quo, if you will. Well, listen to me. We'll do more in this area if you help us to fight corruption by giving us the information that you have on this man. I think we can work that out and get something if we really want to know. And I'm saying I'm not convinced that either of these two political parties want to see any, whether from the other or they're certainly not from their own party, get in the kind of trouble that they could get in with that kind of information coming forth.
Very few people in Belize will ever get to know how many of our Belizean politicians and others cannot leave Belize or go to the United States because they don't get nabbed. And there are others right now who are putting themselves in the same situation to get themselves nabbed. Some of them will go, and we're not hear about them never again. That's just a part of the reality of the present process.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
We know might like it, but that's just it.
I think we flagged this issue quite a bit.
Yeah, we've exhausted it. We have exhausted it.
We have gotten all angles or most of the angles to it.
I have a Saldiva fatigue at this minute because I've been thinking about it for a while. And this I'm troubled though. I'm really troubled when people, and again, this comes right down to that party loyalty that supersedes even common sense. Because I like this person, and because this person is of my particular party, I can see no wrong in him. Until we can get over that in Belize, we're not going to get anywhere.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman,
Agreed.
I can tell you for a certainty based on the historical facts, okay, that we have an elected official right now in our Belize House of Assembly who, was it not for a bunch of a rose bush, then let's call it like a rose bush that protected a certain person that he run his vehicle against. Had that been a cement wall, that person would have been dead because the intent was to commit grievous harm. But that matter was settled out at court, and that person is right now sitting in the House of Assembly there, like nothing happened. And one of the biggest smoke that we have right there right now going on in the House.
We can only take your word for that because you're not even.
No, you don't have to, because I'm just reporting or I'm just repeating the reports. Right?
Well,
I wasn't there when it happened. So I can't tell you
I don't know what you're talking about. Do you know what he's talking about, George? For you to bring something like that up, you have to bring the
I try to show you how ridiculous the situation is.
No, but you can't show me what
I'm giving you a physical example. You want me to name names?
Yes, go ahead.
You want me to name names?
Go ahead. If you want to bring up, give me half of the story.
I'm not in the habit of doing that kind of stuff because you know the angle where I come from,
they're not
naming
bringing it up.
names is not something
It's
that you
not
do
personal.
gratuitously.
Yeah, no,
But
no,
it's not
but
otherwise
personal,
you-
Mr.
no,
It's-
no,
it- Well, I could do that one. I could do that one specifically if you want me to do that one for you.
Tell us who.
The same person want me to get your ass kicked out of the house because of misbehaving under the previous administration.
you mean
Can everybody
Julius
guess that
Espat?
one?
Julius Espat?
All right. You call the name. I didn't.
So
You know what?
but you
But
said
what has he done?
he said he pinned somebody
What
against
has
the
he
wall.
done?
And
You wasn't listening to what I was trying to intimate earlier then, or the context of what I said does not solicit such a question. What has he done
Right.
after what I said or what I said?
but maybe
It's lost.
Well, I mean, if he's acting improper, is it a menacing? Is it a micro? Is it macro? Is it a medial?
It's a macro. You can't intend to kill somebody with a vehicle and pay people off money and turn around and pretend that it's no big deal. And that is not as much of a crime as somebody who actually never participated in a crime, being accused and being alleged, like we had said earlier in the program. That was just an allegation of a crime. This is not an allegation of a crime. This was an actual crime.
see, again, here's
You see
the
the
party.
difference?
There's the partisanship, man, which is sick because you're going PUP UDP on us, and I'm hoping that we would not go down that line with that kind of reasoning there. You're saying now that we should let Saldivar off because Julius
No,
Espat
I did not.
something
Mr. Chairman,
as
not
bad
put
as
words
he-
in my mouth like that, man.
But that basically
You'll be
what
unfair
you're
to me when you do that.
No, I'm not.
I have to object. You'll be unfair to me because I did not go that far. I measure my words. I measure what I say.
I am putting context to your comments. That's all. That's
Your
all.
context, not mine. That's why sometimes should I give me a extra 2 seconds, make I finish my thought.
Boy,
Black
you know-
off my thoughts,
Extra
and then
2
you assume
seconds.
the rest.
Boy, extra 2 seconds. Boy, stop. All right. You're- Anyway,
I was a little disingenuous there, Mr. Chairman. I was a
It
little
is,
disingenuous there.
it-
So I take back part of that one.
guys. No,
I was
really
just
though.
provocative.
We're heading for the 19th of September, right? Make
Yes.
we talk about the 19th of September.
19th of November.
November, 19th of November. There are some who have suggested that it should be a cultural day as opposed to just a Garifuna settlement day. Any comments on that? Any thoughts?
Cultural Day is fine with me. I
Where
think
everybody
that-
celebrate their own unique identity.
yeah, Cultural
Because
Day
we
is
have
fine.
Belize is
I
a
think it's-
melting pot of different cultures. Go
I
ahead.
think
go
it's
ahead.
only fair that we do that, sir. And the reason why is because all over the world, except for Belize, everybody celebrate their day of heritage or something that has to do with their heritage. You know,
Would we have
all
separate
over the
days?
world, you find people.
Would we have separate days like they do all over the world for different ethnic groups, or do we celebrate one day?
I
of
think one
our
cultural
different-
day. We already have what 11 or 12 holidays already. We don't need any more.
Yeah.
What
Well-
about revising some of the ones that we currently have
Well, that was
for a
done.
starter?
That was done a while ago, and in fact, Columbus Day was one that was supposed to have been struck off. They brought it back this year. I don't know why, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I really believe that June the 1st ought to
But-
be a holiday because that's the vote day, no? That made a
But-
significance.
But I think the Garifuna people deserve to have their own heritage recognized, and therefore they deserve to have their day. I don't have a problem with that, and I think that nobody else should be willing to go to the extent of taking away that.
Well, all right. So
No,
then,
that's something
but
that
by, call,
it
but by
comes from
calling
within,
it heritage,
you know, it's-
but by calling
If I
it
not share
heritage
somebody's
day,
culture, that means I have
you're
to
not
step
taking
onto
nothing
their
away from
culture.
them. I don't
No,
think
no.
you will not take anything away if
No,
by
I don't
calling
think
it
so.
a heritage day. Yeah, it would not
Yeah, I
take an.
think-
and that day you celebrate.
Okay, then
Garifuna-
what about calling it a
Garifuna-
heritage day and we celebrate their heritage day as our heritage day? Everybody else in the country, irrespective of nationality or ethnicity or
you-
whatever,
I think
just celebrate the
any culture
Garifuna.
Any
Yeah,
culture
there.
could celebrate whatever heritage they come from on that day.
But
I
let me
don't- I
let,
don't have
No,
let,
but the
let,
point is one of national holiday. The
Let-
one where
let-
it's there
It'll be,
is one-
it'll be a national holiday for
let,
Heritage
let,
Day.
let Leonard repeat what he just said. All of us should celebrate Garifuna Settlement Day
and
as
forget about any other like
our
Creole
own,
Day
as
or
our
any
own.
other Spanish Day or whatever, right?
Why?
People wouldn't go for it.
What do you mean
I
people
was being
wouldn't go-
provocative when I
but
said
tell
that.
me why. Tell me why.
Because
Why?
everybody's culture and heritage is different.
Right? Duh. You mean you serious about that? Yeah.
I'm
No,
very serious.
but I use Mr.
Why are we
Joseph
targeting the
Clark.
Garifuna? Because they are
Are you
allowed
for
to and
Garifuna
they are
Settlement Day
espoused.
or for Cultural Day? That's why they try you to confuse me. Because sometimes it sounds like you say, make we have a kind of common culture day. But in one
Which
sense,
to
you
me
say,
would have been
no,
the 10th of September.
We should continue with the Garifuna Settlement Day. So I ask for clarification.
That's for you, Leonard. That's for him,
I
right?
ask for clarification because it sounds like you're selecting both options.
Okay. What I was intimating, it was a provocative statement that I made to get to the point where if we can't respect each other's desire to have something that is internal to our own existence or ethnicity or culture or whatever is it that gives us pride for existing as a human being. Okay?
But why
To
only
some people,
one culture? Why only one ethnic group gets that distinction?
I put that out as like I said, provocative. Like I said, I was intending to try and solicit. Then why would we do that when in fact Garifuna, all of us are not Garifunas? Why would we celebrate only the Garifuna Settlement Day and not our own? That's where my provocation was going to. That is that, in other words, we could and should celebrate everybody's culture, as I stated earlier.
Yeah, but I don't think we
That's
have.
just the way it should
what
be.
we have. We have like 7 or 8 different culture in Belize. We can't have a holiday for everyone. That's why I
But we
think
can have a cultural day.
we have one
Everybody
cultural day,
celebrate.
and you celebrate it how you want to
And
celebrate.
whose
it.
day is going to be chosen?
Nobody,
Right?
everybody does it in their own way.
Yeah.
You know how pissed off. You know how pissed off I am as a Creole person to see that they're trying to like put the 10th of September in Anguzu bag and
But
pretend like it never did
why-
exist.
But
Why do
the
you
10th
continue
of
to-
September, the 10th of September is not only for Creole. I saw as a kid every person in Belize.
Yes, but the banishing of that 10th of September is the banishing of Creole heritage. Or
Well,
Creole,
yes,
or how we Creole identify ourselves and where we come from, or we give you the spunks to be able to say, well, okay, I have the fortitude to believe that I'm a Creole,
Yes.
a Belizean Creole, because you have a lot of other Creole all over the place too, right? At Jamaica and other places.
But see, to me, Creole was anyone in Belize that shared the culture of Belizean, and you could have been
Not necessarily.
Hispanic.
No.
No.
It was mostly
of
referred
course.
to the black people that got
No,
mixed up
it
with the white
was
people and other
referred to
people.
it was referred to the black
As
people,
Creole.
but the 10th of September was celebrated by everyone. That's what I'm saying. It
Before,
didn't
long
matter.
time
It
ago,
didn't-
yes.
it didn't
Because the
matter.
Creole control the governance of the country, and the Creoles are the one that the British they left in charge of the country. I know that they are becoming a minority in the country. Now they are being sidelined, and some other things are are being put in place to. I mean, even the Prime Minister get up there and say, well, the Creole. In fact, I don't know if I should repeat that because we all know what the man said.
Let me ask.
I don't know what he said. What did he say?
Stupid and
What did
ludicrous
he say?
statements, right?
He
What did
said
he say, Mr.
Creole
Bucket?
he said Creole is not the majority anymore. The
Yeah.
Hispanic is the
Did-
The
majority.
man
he
is throwing
lie?
it in our face.
Did he
The man is
lie?
throwing that kind of shit in our face.
Did he
didn't
lie?
He was telling the truth.
All
He was
right,
telling
so
the
what-
truth.
what
After the man has successfully achieved the objective with the Trojan has, none could turn around and throw it in our face, and what the hell we could do about it?
Yeah.
We are being marginalized in a country where we were supposed to have been the one inheriting the British
Where's the what about the
system and control of the
Belizeanness?
country.
What about the Belizeanness of people as
That's-
opposed to
yeah.
a Garifuna or Creole?
I don't have a problem with that
or
either,
Hispanic.
Mr.
What
Chairman.
about the Belize? And that's why I think when people come from abroad, they should be made to say a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the country of Belize, especially those who come from like Guatemala. I don't think they should have been brought in. I don't think they should have ever been given
Exactly.
citizenship. But of course,
Exactly.
you had
By
the
the
minister.
thousands, tens of thousands, not
It
in
doesn't
thousands, but
matter
tens
how
of thousands.
much.
I just want
How
to
do
get
you
back-
always stray from the point, man? Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
The
John.
point is that it's more than what we are counting.
We
It's
know
a
that.
one or two or three.
We know that.
It's
But that has,
outnumbering us. It's
that has-
marginalizing
that
us.
has
We have no
nothing
effect in
to
our
do-
own country.
that
Mr.
has
Chair.
nothing to do with the conversation we're having. Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
sir. Go ahead.
It seems to me that we are at a point in Belize where there's a consciousness that we should reset. day before yesterday, I was in Belmopan at the swearing-in ceremony for the commissioners on the constitutional reform, and one of the ministers in particular gave a very, very erudite presentation, Henry Charles, and the gist of what he was saying is that, listen, man, we change society by its very nature, change, and what was acceptable 40 years ago would not be acceptable now. There are new realities. And so in that context, I am saying that if you look at the issue of the ethnic celebrations, I believe that this is the time for a reset, to the point that I think Mr. Brackett kind of was insinuating that no, they are trying to relegate the 10th of September as well. That is a sort of Creole celebration. I'm saying, no, it's not. At one point, it was National Day. We were calling the 10th of September National Day. I believe that there has been an admirable reset since the PUPs have taken over in 2020, in November 2020. Notice that they have reset and they have said that there will be a day to celebrate the birthday of the father of the nation. I don't got no problem with that, and I don't think that many people do outside of political bickering. What they have also done, to their credit, is to say we will be naming Emancipation Day as a national holiday. Very good. But I think along those lines, I think that we should be contemplating the kind of ethnic day where Belize is a paradise in terms of ethnic tolerance. It's not that we don't have our little issues there, but it's a paradise, relatively speaking. And I think that we should start the conversation of saying, you know, we need to choose a day where each of the ethnicities can celebrate, not necessarily in isolation. It could be coordinated, but it's all the Belizeanness of Belize is being diverse.
That is my point. I agree with that 100%.
And so I think that at some point, the conversation should go forward. And it means that the Garifuna would have the same day that the Creoles have, but they may be celebrating.
But I think, George, they would also have to be big enough to understand that and accept that, not feel slighted by it in any way.
Right. But we have to start the conversation, you see, because people can be convinced of position that you may consider not being one that they would move from.
Yeah.
So
but
I think let's start the conversation.
Yeah. So bringing that
up. Mr. Marvitt, you're giving allowance for recognizing that there are hardcore people in each and every ethnic group, right? That would not like to steal any kind of gongs in terms of they are becoming marginalized. You know, am I assuming wrong way?
That's a reality of life. But I'm saying that you would never get 100% compliance with anything.
And
it's a function of democracy that the majority rules.
Let me hit on one that you touched on, the Emancipation Day, because again, though, we're looking at Belize now being a majority Hispanic, and that's a fact. The census has proven that. So I believe that June the 1st would be a more significant celebration than Emancipation Day, because more than half of this country has not been emancipated and has no way can relate to the whole emancipation thing, because only the slaves were emancipated. And I'm not suggesting that, because even to that point, when we look at it, Emancipation Day certainly did not signal the end of slavery, because slavery to this day, many elements of it continues. So I don't think that is a day worth celebrating until we really have freed ourselves totally from that. You see the point I'm making here? Does it make any sense to you?
It wouldn't make sense to the hardcore, because they'll go and tell you where to go jump.
I think there's institutional slavery, Mr. Chair, and then there's the conceptual conversation on slavery. There's actual legal slavery taking place in a number of the Arab countries. A lot of the African people that are proceeding into Europe are being held captive in Libya and some of those
And,
places
and,
were
in, and, in,
slaves.
and in the
And
Indian
so I
subcontinent.
don't know that you can wait for that. I think that the Emancipation Day that gives, especially in English-speaking Caribbean, relates to when slavery was abolished, institutionally abolished. And so I think you need a frame of reference. And certainly in terms of the Caribbean, that is what it is. I believe that Belize, historically, you can't just trample on your history. I believe there are legitimate reasons to celebrate Emancipation Day. I think that it should be properly organized because this year I was out at Barnabas Grave and I saw basically an old 15-seater bus pull up, and I saw people running out of it and basically started singing. And I realized these 15 people were celebrating. This was the beachhead for Emancipation Day. And it was very pathetic, to tell you the truth. And so I think that it has to be organized and there has to be a buy-in to it.
I think that Belizeans are descendants of even people as dark complexion as you. If when they do the lineage, they'll find that you might have at least slave master or so into you.
Who, me?
Yes, you know, yes, you, you.
Why are you saying? Why are you saying as dark
What
as
I'm
you?
saying is that most of us in Belize, most of us. No.
I'm asking you.
I'm repeating the same thing I'm saying. I shouldn't say that you're dark. You're not a dark skinned fellow, are you? You're pretty light. You're pretty light.
When you say as dark as you, it's like this is not the gold standard. This is the opposite of the gold standard. So I'm just trying to contextualize.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
It sounds like it could be like a subtle insult. And I
No,
Mr. Marvin,
I can't see how you get that. I can't see how you get that.
You know the chairman is just trying to be facetious.
I can't see you getting that from that, Judge. I'd be amazed. I'd be surprised. No.
I cannot presume what your intentions are. I can't.
Yes, but let me explain it to you. Give me a chance to explain it then, because I know we intended that as an insult. My grandfather.
You're saying that I could have been a chattel from some slave master. Because of my complexion.
Is that what somewhere down the line, so you're gonna mixing it somewhere. But most of us do, and not all of us are reflected in a light skin like I do. My grandfather.
But you could have been a slave master also.
I could have also been a slave. My grandfather, who came from Jamaica, was the son of a slave and a darker man than you are. So, but the fact that he married into lighter thing and he came down, you never. But what I'm saying to you, to put it into context, is that to celebrate Emancipation Day, it almost doesn't do any good for anybody. What good does Emancipation do?
What it does is that it
ignorance is
reminds
bliss.
us that we have proceeded from being shackles to the white man.
We still are.
No, we are not. You don't have
physically.
Do you
physically.
need
You know what? I would give up.
He's referring to the physical thing, and you're referring to the.
No, I would give up Emancipation Day for the 10th of September.
No,
anytime.
That doesn't make it any less relevant.
No, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be recognized, but I think it's not relevant. Emancipation Day is out there. It has no historical grounding in Belize, even
that's
though
basically the point I'm making.
No, ignorance is bliss.
No. We all know that that 1834, the slaves were freed, and then 2 years later they were granted full freedom. But what I'm saying, in historical context, that date has meant nothing except an organization, a Creole organization or whatever, has been pushing that particular.
You know why I wouldn't put much stock in that, because did you know that slave masters were compensated for this the loss of their slaves? Did you
Of
know
course,
that?
of
But
course.
it wasn't
Alright.
about them, it was about us.
All right.
Mr.
So then
Chairman.
about us what?
Us being-
Mr. Chairman.
About us what?
Remember-
Because years
remember
after that signature they meant very little. All it did was just a procedural matter. It did
No,
not
it was
free
more than
anybody really.
It was more
Many
than
of us
that.
are not free yet.
People, no, you see, and this is what you are legitimizing what Muta Baruka is saying. Muta Baruka has said that they have taken the shackles off your feet and they have placed it around your brain. You are still living in slavery, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So emancipate yourself. Emancipate yourself from that mental slavery. Because obviously you're tied tightly and they're tightening the chain on you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman
sir.
and
Yes, sir.
panelist members. I want to declare my Mayan heritage right here and now on this show.
Mayan heritage.
My great-great-grandmother was a full-blooded Mayan, Pancayo.
You know what?
Who could have looked on me, Leonard Brackett, and think that were the case?
Not me. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm just messing with you.
No.
Let me say,
If I want to laugh at myself, I want to take a little and think at my oneself. Let me tell you.
But you were talking all night, man.
Go
Let me
ahead,
say
go ahead,
something.
go ahead.
Because I also said something like that about my grandfather, but at the end of the day, you know what is true? What I am is what I am. I, as my individual person, this one life here, is all that I can speak of. And I don't care what kind of kings or papa I came from. As a person, if I am a good person, that is all I can brag about. No care what my fathers did.
No. You exaggerate up on the other side. You go from one extreme to the next.
Hold up. I am stating my opinion, my belief. You
I
don't
heard
have to
you, but
agree with that.
Yes, but okay, sir. Let me leave that part at that then, and just go back to say that I take only shot at me oneself right now, then, right? As black as I am. Okay.
You sound like the reference to John.
Yeah, right. Sorry, John. So, you hear me? You hear me now? You take it up with him for me.
If I were to say that I am now no descendants of slaves, if I were to say that here in America, having been born in America, that I am no descendants of slaves, I'll be making an ass and a fool of myself and probably anybody else. I'll try and be cunning who would be hearing me saying that, because then they would say, well maybe this one nigga will just come from Africa yesterday, so maybe he's not really a African. He's not really a slave descendant by virtue of his black skin. He can claim that he didn't descend from any of the Africans that came to the Americas.
Well, the Garifuna
and that would not be true.
The Garifuna make that claim. They claim that they were never enslaved because they jump off of the ship. They were. I think they were enslaved for the period of time they were on the ship, but they're saying no. So,
Mr. Chairman, you're skating on thin ice.
In what way, sir?
But it doesn't mean that what you're saying is not legitimate. I think.
But I shouldn't be saying it.
No, you should be saying it. But it's a very delicate conversation.
Well,
my view is that this divide between the Garifuna and the Creoles is artificial.
Well, I think it has been bridged.
We are both Africans living in the diaspora.
That has been bridged. That
Africans
has
living
been
in the diaspora.
I don't think, and make
well,
no
we
mistake.
came from different part of Africa, though. You see that, and even in Africa, there were people who went there and try to use our division among ourselves from different tribes. Even though before that division was created, those tribes were intermarrying each other, and they were probably that's how kingdoms.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're saying that if you have a certain melanin content, you're an African.
And you know what? Here's the thing, though.
But I tell you, the whitest of white person that live in the Caucasus, Mountains, they are also Africans.
I don't think a white
public information.
I don't think a group of white. I don't think a group of white slavers could have gone to Africa and take out Africans without Africans assisting them. I'm pretty sure that many of the stole the whole.
And they were very much involved.
You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, the whole slavery thing and the emancipation, I think, is not as weighty as we try to make it. There's so many more things that we need to look at. And again, being whether I'm a descendant of a slave or even have some of the slave master in me, which I probably do. I know it, and though I have not been able to trace it, but it's probably there. Given just the
Slave
complexion
master?
of my skin, they might have slipped in there somewhere without me pano or without my grandpa know. You never know.
Well, you
Let
know,
me tell this on TV.
I did my DNA through Ancestry, and I actually did tracing of my family heritage, and I was able to go back to way back in 1800s, early 1800s, and I found out that one of my great grandmother actually owned slaves in Belize. She was a colored woman, and her name was Sarah Usher, and she actually owned slaves. So when you look at slavery and all that, it's kind of mixed up. It's never clear. It's never clear
It was a means to an end.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the end was actually to acquire material successes.
It was property.
So
it
you
was
need the labor
property
to help you with your expanding
And
your
to
capital
go
and develop
to
your
a
capital.
point, and to go to a point that George made about the same program he watched with Bill Maher, who said, you know what, back then it was the thing to do. Everybody had
Yeah.
slaves. The
Yes.
Africans had
It was a
slaves.
means to an end.
We cannot judge today by back then standard, the presentism that you spoke of.
That's
And-
the word right there, G. Mike, presentism.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I see some of that. But not all of it. Let me say that. And at this point, we don't have enough time to discuss that. But I'm just saying, interesting topics and the things that need to be discussed.
Yeah,
Can't
I
just shy away
misspoke.
from them.
I said Sarah Usher. I meant Sarah Goff was her name.
Well,
How we believe anything else we are telling?
Actually, you could find this in the parliamentary West Indian papers. It's no
I see.
secret.
I can tell you, I'll give you a 30 seconds joke. We did the ancestry on the Jones side, Marvin and Jones, you know. You know my great grandpa, the man from Scotland, my man when he Boeing stepped off from a ship and basically married to a colored woman. So whenever I go to Riverside Tavern, I ask for my family.
But so now what you to tell me about this slave master? So this slave master thing where you to throw up on me now? That's right up on you.
No, it's not as bad as that.
Oh, I see.
Up 1835 and the abolition was 1834.
Yeah.
Right.
So the dates on trap you. The dates on throw you.
So he stepped out one day after and he married a free slave.
Well, he married an ex-slave.
No, he couldn't have been free if the person was a slave, but he couldn't be a slave if he was free. One or the other.
Wait, you couldn't be a free slave?
No.
Why not?
No.
Ex-slave.
If you're free, you're free. You're ex-slave. If you're a slave, you're a slave. If you're a slave, you're not free. And if you're free, you're not a slave.
They talk about technicality there.
No. Philosophy, right?
Yeah. So then this brings us back to the whole emancipation thing. If you could not be freed as a slave, then what emancipation? What really is it then?
No. You're the conflation, Mr. Chairman. That statement you just make is a conflation of the facts. You just make a conflated statement there, and jive, add up that. And I think you must do that deliberately. You try to get slick one way.
Let me Google this and see. Gentlemen, it's 8:36, right? Any topic we missed?
Tonight was good, and I think as we go along every week, we improve. Hopefully, the public can derive some good benefit from bantering and messing around, and sometimes teasing each other and so. But at the end of the day, I think we provide some good information.
Mr. Chair, we've been in and out of kind of treating this topic with some gravity, and then we're
some levity, right? Gravity and levity
into it, which is great. But as a biologist, I would say to you that whenever you say the mixing of the race, whenever you see one China woman team up with one black man, and whenever you see one Japanese team up with a white woman, and whenever you say Wankule, and that not one derogatory term in our view, in
Culture,
our
yeah.
context.
Next-
Whenever
yeah,
you see
lexical.
Wankule team up with our Mennonites, from a biological standpoint, it's the best thing that could happen.
Oh, of course.
Because you
The
know
mixing
why?
of the genetic building
Genetically-
genetic. Yep.
Genetically, they are stronger.
Yep. Yep.
They're likely to be smarter. They are likely to resist
Better
certain
looking.
diseases, and they are
Yeah,
better looking.
There's some
Yeah.
good, there's
All
some
that.
good looking ones.
So I mean, we're adjusting to some extent, but there's an element of it that says, you know, Belize not paradise because this is how it happened at Belize.
Yep. Yep.
This is
And
nobody-
that's
nobody did
one of the
lynch on one
reasons.
tree.
That's one of the reasons I always think that Belize Creole are indigenous, even though some people don't like the term, because I think when you mix all those races, there's no way else you could find that kind of mixture,
Exactly.
right? So
So,
we're
yeah,
very unique to
the
ourselves.
mixture itself is indigenous to this area. I
That's
agree.
correct.
I
That's
can see
correct.
that. I can see that. I think we have to then also to define who the indigenous and who is not in Belize.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I think the Mayans are the only ones who are really indigenous. The
I
other
don't say-
next to them
I
would
don't
be
say
the
that.
Creole.
No, there are people here before the Mayans. The Mayans came from the east and conquered
So, all right,
Central,
those
part
people
of
would
Central
also
America.
would
No,
also
but-
be indigenous. Who are they? Those people, Leonard? Who are they?
Almac.
No, not the Olmecs. The Olmecs are in Mexico area. They were the
Olmecs are
Taínos.
originally
The
from Africa,
Taínos.
quote unquote.
Taínos.
The Taínos.
Taínos.
Okay, yeah, they were
okay.
dumb.
They were all the way from
South-
the tip
South
of
America,
Florida, from
Yeah,
the tip of Florida all the way around the Gulf of Mexico,
All right, all
down
right,
to Yucatan, all the way around
All right,
Belize,
all
all the
right,
way around Honduras.
all right. You
You know,
got it. We got
that's
you.
why.
Got you.
Wait. With the Garifunas, a lot of the Garifuna people need to understand and know that their history goes far into the past, farther than what they are currently celebrating when they celebrate the 19th of September. November. Their history precedes
Garifunas are the Caribs.
Columbus.
The
Right.
Garifunas are the Caribs.
Yeah, the Red Caribs are the ones that Columbus met
Well,
on his
those are
first
the
voyage.
Garifunas.
Yeah, so that you have
The
to look for that
Garifunas are a mix of African
and
And-
Caribbean.
and
It is the
And the Arawak.
Garifuna. The Garifuna from Africa came across and got mixed up with the mainland
Arawak.
indigenous red people.
Yeah.
And that's what created the Red
from
Caribs
the
that Columbus
Orinoco.
met in the Caribbean, which is why the Caribbean is named as Carib. It's named after the Carib ethnicity.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a wonderful evening. We'll meet again, of course, next week, Wednesday. I am planning a concert for the park for a benefit. So I'll ask you guys if you could help me in any way.
When is that?
We for the 25th of November. Now, the
November.
interesting thing, because I am also
25th of November.
25th of November, which is the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Thanksgiving will come early this year because, of course, the
Thursday.
last Thursday of the month will be early in the month.
Yeah.
I would like to see, and I've been lobbying for a celebration of Thanksgiving in Belize for years. Not necessarily to celebrate with no turkey. We could use give not about no Plymouth Rock, not about no pilgrims and all of that, but certainly about our hurricane season ends at the end of November.
Yeah, the Thanksgiving issue is one of any part, you could come from any part of the world and you could
Celebrate
just have some
Give
sense of
thanks.
gratitude and
Give
want to
thanks.
give thanks for whatever you're aspired
Exactly.
to and acquired in your lifetime, you know. So
I think so. And just like the Indigenous Day thing that we're talking about, or the Cultural Day thing, everybody give thanks on that day for whatever they feel thankful for. Whether you
but then, Mr. Chairman, if I must interject and talk over here again, we are go back to the beginning of the conversation where
did
you
you
and
say
them
that? Why
decide
did you say that again?
decide that your thing should be favored, to be given as a special holiday somewhere down the line, maybe 20, 50 years from now. You know, you have a right to claim that.
no, I'm not. I wouldn't claim anything.
Maybe not
like that.
now,
Well,
but
how
by the
would
time the
that
thing
be?
develop and get big,
It wouldn't be personal to me either. I'd more just like to see people giving thanks and giving thanks to me for anything.
Chair,
yeah,
I want
yes,
to
sir,
suggest
yeah.
to you that we have been kicking the economic state of Belize ball down the road for about 2 or 3 weeks now, or more. And I think we need to deal with it.
You're gonna tie
I
it
would
down to a
suggest-
week.
I would suggest next week. I would also suggest that perhaps by the end of the month, we deal with one session on the Constitution. I wouldn't mind leading on that because, and I'm saying that because you want it to be organized to the extent that we tread with core issues that we could have a useful outcome out of. You know, the way I look at it, we could look at it in terms of topical areas, maybe 10 questions that we go around the room and just feel inputs on. So before you close, those are the two things that I would like to suggest going forward.
All right, the economic situation. Are we in a depression? Depression at this point in Belize?
I don't think so. The Prime Minister.
That's a technical term. That's a technical term, and I don't know that we have a legal descriptor of a depression. What I will tell you is that we are at a low ebb, because there has been
the
some
Prime Minister
there has
didn't
been
say
some-
that. I saw the Prime Minister's speech yesterday. Not speech, but press meeting
Yeah.
meeting of the press and talking on Channel 7,
Yes.
and he
And
didn't
that you going by?
You
No. I'm just
exactly-
saying what he said.
Yeah.
He spoke of employment being
Yes.
7%. He spoke
Politician.
that the economy was growing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he can, and I know the dispute that I am saying to you.
No,
Things
I'm
are-
just
He's
saying-
out of his element
just saying-
when he
I
speaks about
believe
economics,
he-
okay?
I am saying to you that we have to measure it by certain yardstick, and one of the yardstick that you could measure it by is poverty. Another yardstick that you could measure it
But
by.
that's not how you
is-
measure depression.
is-
Depression
is-
is measured quite differently than poverty. You could have the
I-
worst poverty and the economy could still be going
Sir,
because it's on
sir, but
that's
there's
on
no
the distribution. That's on the
definition-
distribution of wealth, which has
There's
nothing
no-
to do with
oh,
depression.
man. There is
No, because if you say depression, you
man.
got to say what it is.
there's no legal definition of depression in Belize. So I was just making the point that you could look at the condition of the people. And so in
Condition
terms
or
of the
complaints?
presentation- In terms of
Condition
the
or
presentation-
complaints?
No, the condition of the people. They are objective. They are objective things that you could look at. But I don't want to get into the
Measure.
discussion before we have the discussion.
You know what? You know what? Funny though. Let me say one more thing because when I left Belize in 1972, and we
70
were
what?
1972.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, I left 69 the first time I came back after about a year, and went again in 72 and stayed 20 years without
All
coming
right.
back to Belize even one day. But I
Okay.
remember going back, we had no running water. We had to go to the pipe, go full on bucket. Sometimes the pipe just trickle. We had to set the mark up before night. We had no indoor toilet system. We're using the outhouse or the toilet
Chicken Sierra Street,
over canal.
National
Yeah, yeah.
Velvet.
We were eating. We were wearing. I mean, the physics, sal physics, if you will, or some cheap
Tennis.
shoes from cafe.
Coffee. Yeah.
And butter.
If
In
you're
Baton.
looking at the way the people are living now as to compare to what we were living then, if this is depression, then that, I don't know what you'd call that. But we certainly was looking at poverty through different lens.
Well, you can't mix up poverty with progress because you can't judge Belize based on Belize. You have to judge Belize based relative to other countries. And it's not only Belize that was in that scenario. If you look at Belize City in the 1950s, it was very much like what Kingston looked like, Kingston, Jamaica. And it was very much like what the capital of Trinidad looks like. So I'm just saying that in passing that judgment,
But doesn't it
everybody
still
throw-
look the same?
Everybody throughout the Indies were backing water from pipes. And if you look at the metrics of it, we were richer then, G. Mike, than we are now. Poverty has increased
Well,
tremendously.
a lot of people are still doing the same thing, backing water from
And
pipes
where
right
we
now
are
in the
now,
London Bridge
so
area then.
I'm just saying,
Richer,
it's
we
a
were
delicate conversation.
we were richer in what way? Because when you look at
In
people
terms of-
nowadays,
In terms of basic needs, in terms of meeting basic needs.
you mean that there are more people nowadays? Not, I don't see people really starving now.
No.
Oh man,
No.
you're not moving around enough.
They don't
You're
have
not
it.
moving around the city enough.
They don't have as much as they want to eat. You're
No,
talking about
Some
a
of
few.
district areas.
You're talking
Jim
about
Mike.
you're talking
No,
about the
no,
homeless
no.
people. That's a different situation.
No, but
That
I'm not just the
has to
homeless
do with
people.
mental health and a lot
No.
of other things. But people
Uh,
dying in the street from starvation. You're not.
Jim,
That people really have places to go. You know. In
people are
fact,
not dying in the street, but they are dying at home, Mr.
just
Chairman.
just
You have
this
to
week, you
understand.
know,
But people aren't dying from
You got to
hunger in
contextualize
Belize.
the
Nah,
reality.
dying
People are
from
dying at
hunger.
home.
People
they're
aren't
not.
dying
dying
from
They're
from
not.
hunger.
hunger.
They're not. They're not.
They're
They're
not.
not.
No?
They're
They're
not.
dying from
No?
hunger.
Listen, just this
Oh
week
man.
alone, you know how many
Come on now.
people have been out
Oh
there giving
man.
out care packages and
That is
hampers
different.
and things.
That's
Yeah, but
emergency
that's one day.
situation.
That's one
That is
day.
not a regular
Come
day-to-day
on, guys.
occurrence, sir.
People aren't dying from
So
hunger in Belize. Come on
they're
now.
dying from hunger.
Come on now.
Judge, what is it going
You
to
gotta
get
move
you
around more.
to say that?
You gotta
Where
move
do we
around
get?
more.
Where do we
Jim
get to
Mike,
tell that lie? Where do we get
Jim
from
Mike,
that lie?
but
Lie.
why are you calling a fact a lie?
How is it a fact? Who do you know that has died from slavery now? From poverty.
No,
Jim Mike,
from poverty. you
Not
die
use the
from
word
hunger,
poverty
from
because
hunger.
that one be worse. The use who has died from poverty, that one be
We
worse
died
than
from
just died from starvation.
Poverty is different. Poverty is different.
Dying from gunshot
Poverty is
wounds. That's a
believed
bigger
is
problem.
68% poverty.
You have a warped scenario of what a
Thank you.
reality is.
Thank you. Thank you.
G Mike,
You know, some people can't buy one noodles, one Chinese noodles.
Huh?
You know, some people can't buy one Chinese noodles to survive.
Why
I know you
can't
said they couldn't do better, you know. Because some of them could have go fishing in the river.
Because I
When
bet
they
you
go
ain't gonna
fishing
buy
in the
bad
sea.
man though. I bet you ain't gonna buy bad man at $2 per liter though.
There are other ways
I
to
bet you ain't gonna buy
survive.
that.
G
So
Mike,
priorities
Yeah,
are out of whack,
and they
man.
could find a money for that though.
can
Yeah,
I tell you?
And unless
I
them
will
pick
send
me
it to
more
you guys.
hungry,
Bracket the
people are
talk
buy
to.
one with the money.
Bracket the talk to. You know.
Can I tell you that there's something called income poverty?
Oh, that's
And
different.
Belize,
That's
Belize. Well, you know what income poverty is? You don't have the money for buy food. Belize,
A lot of people go
income
go
poverty
at
in
night,
Belize
go out in bed, go sleep without nothing to eat. Okay.
was 58% 10 years ago.
You could
And it
show all
has gotten
kind of
worse.
figures out there, but the
No,
reality on the ground
No.
is that
No.
people
The
are not
reality on the
dying
ground
of
is that
starvation in Belize.
Yeah.
People are not.
doing these
In
surveys.
fact, I see a few of them out there that could do with a few days of starvation.
I do too.
G Mike, you have in that one sentence, you have eroded 99.9% of the confidence that I had in you.
Why I'm proud of that. I'm so proud of that fact. I'm proud of that because I've heard a few things from you that have shocked me. That got way past 100.
But you are seeing the reality, but you are
Where?
avoiding,
Where am I
you are
seeing it?
avoiding what it is.
Where I'm hearing complaints, but I'm not seeing that reality. I hear people complain. I see people every day begging me for some
Yes.
money, but
Why
I
are
don't
they
see
begging
what.
you?
Excuse
And
me.
G Mike,
Do I
Then they beg
do I
you for
really
money.
need to tell you that? Do
then
I?
they
Really? Let
beg
me
you
give you a
for
story.
money to go buy food.
Let me
and
give you
other
a story.
stuff.
Let me give you a story. I was on the train one day in New York, and a guy came through the train. Please, anybody got that really hungry? Anybody got any money to give me? I gave him my last $2.
That's a gig, man. The man was running a gig.
A few stops down, the man must think I done get up. The man come through, they wave the same
Again.
$2. And it's a cigarette. Anybody got a cigarette? I get $2 for a cigarette. I get up and I grab my $2. I said, why give me my money? Because
G Mike,
yeah, and that is the reality. That is more the rule than the exception. I will tell you
G
that.
Mike, you can't extrapolate a reality in New York City to reality in Belize. The average income in the United States is over $50,000 US. The average income in Belize, you know that what? 5,000 US.
And your point is?
My point is that in Belize, we have it 20 times worse than in the United States in terms
That's
of
not
meeting
true.
basic
You
needs.
can't.
But
I have another way of explaining that, Mr. Marvin.
Yes, Google
Yes,
it.
so my own personal experience running around the city, because whenever I'm in Belize, that's what I do. I run around and deal with the poverty people. I'm okay.
Where they then? You
A part of my foundation work.
You
I
get them
could
money.
tell you-
Where they then? Are you just
All kind of things. kind of thing,
or
sir.
do you just, or you just get stats on it, information?
No. I have a thing that's going on from 1972 until today date. An annual survey of this country, statistically,
A survey.
economically, scholastic. Yes, sir. From 1972
Very good.
on until today date. That is the basis on which the UDP was
You guys take up
conceptualized.
an extra
Okay?
half hour, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you very much. Anyway,
You're
let's go.
dismissing the meeting as soon as we say something that G might not agree with.
I don't like you very much. Anyway, listen,
Yeah, come on, man.
Sorry.
You guys are making some. You
The
guys
man
are
just,
making things so bad.
the man just said me I wrote 99% of my confidence in his confidence in me, and you are full of me. Anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure. Really, enough respect every time.
Wait, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
How you going to end this program without another hour bantering, sir? We good for another hour, man.
Boy, I can't take another
God
one.
bless you. God bless you, sir.
Have
And
a
everybody
nice
else.
day, guys. Respect every
Good
time.
night. Good night.
Yeah, man.
Respect to all of you.
Huh? I was helping. Yeah, I know. It's about time, right?